Yes, the Mind Fuel guy, AJ Zeglen's joining us. Cassie, so AJ has worked with pro athletes, bunch of awesome human beings, celebrities, some of the greatest human beings on the planet, including myself. And he's helped us achieve some greatness. And AJ is joining us. He joins us every Tuesday and Thursday to talk about the power behind mental performance and helping us achieve our most audacious goals.
And he's also a deep cheek builder. Let's not forget that.
He's a deep cheek builder.
He's a builder of deep cheeks. Yes, he is.
And Cassie, we invite you when the show's over. Oh, you're hanging out with us this morning. We invite you to Google deep cheeks, and you might see all you need to know about that this morning. But we got AJ joining us here this morning, and AJ, Cassie has 3 brothers. And I said to you this morning when I was texting, I said, hey, when we do the show this morning, why don't we talk about some common themes that men come to talk to AJ Zeglen about when they're like, ring, ring. Yeah, hey, I'm Joe, AJ, yeah, I need some help. What are guys most commonly, what's the most common reason men are coming knocking on your door these days, AJ, to say, I need to talk about stuff? AJ Zeglen.
Yeah, I would say there's a couple. Obviously, each person is their own individual case, but I would say most commonly one would be anxiety, just about everything going on in their life.
General anxiety, AJ, just trying to find a way to control it. And I interrupt you because we talk about it often. We do on this show. You start your day and you're like, I'm anxious.
Yeah. So it would be anxiety. Everyone's going to be coming from their own background. Some of these people are high performers in business. Some of them are high performers in sport. Some of them, because we all have some type of performance aspect in our life that we want to do well at, right? Yes. We want to perform well at our job. We want to perform well as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a family member. We want to perform well in our sport or whatever our endeavor is. There is a performance aspect to everything, right?
Interesting.
So I'd say the anxiety, dealing with anxiety and how to regulate that. And then I would say another big one is with their relationships. That's usually a huge one, right? Because it's a huge part of our lives. And it's one that a lot of men really struggle with just because our culture hasn't done a great job, obviously, over the years when we've been growing up to support men that are trying to navigate their relationships, right? Yes. There's a certain amount of kind of bravado or whatever you want to say, like attached to it, where you're just supposed to suck it up. You're just supposed to not talk about your feelings. You're just supposed to, when that type of thing, obviously, eventually there's an accumulation of that over the years and it weighs on you. And then all of a sudden you're in a relationship and you want it to be great and you want to bring your best to the relationship, but now you're in a place where you don't know how because you haven't been communicating openly and honestly. You've been making assumptions. You haven't always been bringing your best. You now are in a spot where you're taking everything really personally, and it all just accumulates. So those are probably the 2 biggest things in how they're managing their stress and anxiety, and then with their relationships.
Is it getting easier, AJ, for men to talk about anxiety? Are you finding maybe this is a generational thing? But I'm really curious about this because this is great because we talk about it all the time. I know yesterday, Johnny himself was maybe battling some of the stuff in the brain. I battle stuff in the brain every now and then. We talk about what Richie does, and it's
and John thing, man. It's an everyday thing.
Yeah. So AJ, is it a generational thing or how would you describe that, AJ?
I hope it's getting better. That's the goal.
Yes.
Right. That's why I have to think that you guys do what you guys do here every day just to make it better. And I think just the way that our society operates, everything is one extreme or the other. And we often forget that 2 things can be true at the same time. I could talk about how I'm feeling and I could still be tough, or I can still be a man, and we often think that it's one or the other. So, okay, Keith's talking about his feelings today on how someone hasn't really stressed out. I guess you got to go turn in your man card, Keith, and you're never.
And great timing this week, especially because we know the conversation happened all over the world, especially in America. It's if you voted one or you voted the other, you must not be tough. You must be something soft. And that's what's unfortunate, isn't it, AJ? Because you can be both. And you know what? And I love this, AJ, because Cassie has 3 brothers.
Yeah.
Cassie, as you're hearing AJ talk, you're hanging out with a bunch of men right now. What are you hearing AJ say, Cassie?
Thank you for what you're doing with the male population, AJ, to show up and let men be both vulnerable, and men is so important. Especially like with my worldview, I grew up on a mountain. We were shooting guns, we were hunting, we were fishing, we were chopping wood, we were doing all of those things. And I grew up as one of the guys, but like you, my dad is probably like the manliest man there is, right? The full beard and the burly,
Yes.
whole nine. My oldest brother is not that man. Right?
Yes.
We always grew up making fun of him because he was the black sheep. He was the black sheep not because he did anything wrong, but because he was metro, right? He cared what his hair looked like. He wanted to wear the Tommy Hilfiger pants and he wanted to drive the Eclipse instead of a truck. And,
Yes.
because it was different, it was like, oh, and there's still, he's totally embraced it at this point. It's like, oh, the gay brother. He's not gay, guys. He's just metro. He's got a kid. Like he is straight. He likes his hair gel and his cologne. But we're finally in a world where you can do your hair and wear cologne and like care. He literally spends more time getting ready in the morning than I do. But it's never been like I grew up a tomboy. That was fine. Nobody judged me where people would judge him and say, oh, there must be something wrong with you because you want to do your hair. Nobody said, Cassie, you didn't even brush your hair. What's wrong with you? So it's so refreshing to hear that this dichotomous thinking of this or this is being addressed and that and absolutely exists because it is true.
And I got to jump in there real quick. When it comes down to it, I think what a man really strives to do is truly own himself, be unapologetic for who he is. Because I got called Metro when I was younger too. I used to take a lot of pride in my hair and how I looked, and my brothers and even friends would say, "Oh, you're Metro." Fuck yes, I am.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're gonna say something to hurt me, shoot where it hurts. Come on, is that all you got? I don't give a shit what you say. Yes, I love you and you love me, but because you have a title for the way that I present myself, that's supposed to fuck me up. Come on, man. Jesus Christ. Because I had realized this is who I am and I'm good with who I am. I'm going to go deeper into who I am. When a man does this, so much of this shit we're talking about, it's like a fart in the wind. It just disappears.
Yeah. Go ahead, Richie.
No, I was just going to say real quick, in the military, in the early years when I was in, there was a stigma associated with men getting mental health. And now over the years, we even thought, hey, you're not going to be able to get into those special units that you want if you go to mental health. Like that's a black dot. But now we've seen that it helps performance and we've changed the name multiple times. And so it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. At the end of the day, we know that getting help in mental health is going to affect positively our performance. So if you want to do what you got to do to fucking succeed, dude, who gives a fuck about the stigma? We know that there's a positive association with it. So we're going to do what we got to do to be successful.
I got goosebumps from that, Richie, because you come from the background of the military. Johnny comes from a highly masculine world of wrestling and bodybuilding and strength. And then my buddy AJ, who again comes from a masculine world of athletics and professional sports. And Zeglen, you and I have talked over the years that there's no way you're going to perform if this is out of sorts, right? So back to the original question, right, AJ? I'm coming into you and saying I'm anxious. And I got to think the first question you're saying is, Keith, what's making you anxious? Is that really what it is?
Yeah, 100%. What's going on? And you know what? Let's not ignore it, right? The goal is not to
ignore it, right?
Like the goal is not to not feel anything. We sometimes think it is, right? Like the goal is not to be a robot and not feel anything. It is to feel it, be aware of what you're feeling, and then how do we regulate it? Because we got to perform, right? So, or we got to perform, or we got to bring our best to that day. So it's that, hey, I'm aware of this tension, this anxiousness, this nervousness, this stress. Okay, cool. This is how it's making me feel. Awesome. Now I take one of my tools out of my toolbox. This is how I regulate it. This is how I manage it. And then I go on in performing at my best, right? Because if you don't, there's someone out there that is not managing or regulating it effectively. Rich was just saying, you put those two people in a situation, in a competitive situation, if it's in business, if it's in sport, if it's in his military background, that person that's able to regulate their emotions, they're going to stay in that sweet spot where they could just be a high performer, right? They're never letting their emotions or that stress get the best of them. So they got to be aware of it, acknowledge it, regulate it, and then perform.
AJ, does it still surprise you that in 2024 people might still come to you and think that you're just hooey fooey? Or are we past that? Or people recognize, like Richie said, we know mental performance affects physical performance. Is that still a thing, AJ? Or you got guys coming up to you going,
yeah, you know what, you do, but here's the thing. Like, the important thing is that if people are coming with that, one, it's like, they probably they're looking for permission to believe in it. They're looking for permission to acknowledge that it is something that can make a difference, that it is important. And like, I work in a fairly female dominated field when I work in my mental health field, right? There's not a lot of guys and there's not a lot of younger men in the field. So I have a lot of guys walk in my office sometimes and they see you and they're like, oh, you look a little younger. Looks like you hit the gym. You're covered in tattoos. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm in here with the dude here. Like, I can, and I'll just validate why they're there. And I'm like, yeah, man, I get it. You think this is a waste of time, or you think that this is made up, or you think that this makes you soft, and I just validate why they're there. And then all of a sudden they just sink in and there's a comfort level and they see a part of themselves in you, that you're also a male, and then all of a sudden there's like a connection made, and the majority of the time, 5 minutes later, you're deep into a conversation and you can see that they've now started the process.
Yeah. We are hanging out with AJ Zeglen, mental performance expert here on the Mindfield segment of Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends. We're just going to wrap up this segment. We started off with a question to AJ, which was, what do most men coming into his office asking the question about? And as AJ said, often it's, I'm feeling anxious. I don't know how to, I'm going to put a word in your mouth, AJ, but I'm stuck. I just don't know how I'm feeling. Yeah. Give somebody in 60 seconds or less, they're thinking it right now. They're starting their day. They're battling this feeling they can't put their finger on. What would you tell that person right now, AJ?
Yeah. Say something. When it's just stuck in our own mind, it's in a part of our brain. We can't do anything with it. And then those negative thoughts and emotions, they just build and build. It's a slow accumulation to the point it comes overwhelming. As soon as we physically speak it, just say it, get it out in some capacity to anyone. All of a sudden, now that those negative emotions, it moves to a different part of our brain. And now we're like, hey, this is challenging, but this is a solvable problem. I'm in problem solving mode now, right? So just say something and then get moving, right? We got that great saying that action absorbs anxiety, right? So when we get moving, now all our neurotransmitters, the endorphins, the dopamine, the serotonin, the norepinephrine, all these neurotransmitters get dumped into our system because we've taken action. That's how our body helps regulate that stress internally, right? So say something and then get up and move. And it's a good first step.
That is actionable advice from AJ Zeglen here this morning on the Mindfield segment. Gentlemen, if you're waking up, starting your day right now, I see you. I've been there. Johnny's been there. Richie's been there. AJ's been there. Cassie's been there. You're feeling like you got this feeling you don't know what you should do. You heard AJ. Go say something. Maybe go talk to your AI. Go maybe journal. But get it off your brain. And then the other thing we got to do, AJ, right, is get moving. Right? Movement creates momentum. Action. What is it, AJ? Action removes anxiety?
Action absorbs anxiety.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. All right, listen, you can find AJ Zeglen on LinkedIn, on Instagram. You can find him. Come connect with me in the lab. If you're looking for some help with what's happening up here, I invite you to go connect with AJ Zeglen. And AJ, before you leave, man, Jack Dugan, who I've told you about, is a big fan of our show here. Mental health's the real thing. No shame in seeking health. And he also pumps in and says, the services AJ provides are so valuable. If men can be courageous and honest, we can get some real help and make us better. And AJ, as Jack is on a journey, down 40 pounds, hanging out with us every single morning. Exactly. Hanging out with us every single morning. And we love Jack's commitment to himself, most importantly, and also commitment to hanging out with us here on the show as well here. All right, Zeglen, you have a good day, buddy. You got a big day planned ahead of you here today?
I got a busy day in the gym, man. And then I got a whole bunch of people in the clinic in the afternoon. So yeah, I'm excited about my day.
Awesome. You have a good one, pal. We'll see you on
Thank
Tuesday.
You, AJ.
Take care, AJ.
Thanks, guys. Great to see everybody. Nice to meet you, Cassie.
The chief of Mindfield, AJ Zeglen.